All right, hi guys. So undefined terms. So the three undefined terms in geometry are points, lines, and planes. The reason these are called undefined terms is because we don't have specific definitions for them. It's merely an attempt to describe what they are, and we use them to then build all the other definitions in geometry. So all the words in the future that we define, they are coming from previously defined words. These words don't have we haven't defined the words that we're using to describe them, right? We don't have specific definitions for location or size. We're just kind of making assumptions about what those words mean to describe what they are, and then we use these words to define other words. All right, so point, um, uh, we talked about these points, lines, and planes in our first Zoom meetings. So points are zero dimensional. They have no height, no width, no depth. Which means they have no size. So they simply describe a location. Like a point on the coordinate plane, you'll have an x value and a y value, and that describes the location on the coordinate plane, but that location doesn't actually have a size, right? Points are represented by dots, right? And so you can have small dots, large dots, but the dot isn't the point. The dot just simply represents where the point is. So you could have point P could be represented by a small dot or a large dot, but it's not. The dot is the representation of where the point is. The actual point has no size. Okay, and then a line is made up of an infinite amount of points that extend in two opposite directions. So if we have points A and B, right? One way to think about this is you can always put a point in between. So we can put a point C in between A and B. We can put a point D in between A and C, right? And we put a point E between A and D, and so on. So we can keep putting more and more points between each two other points. So we have an infinite amount of points because remember, a point has no size. It's just a location, so you can always add another point in between two other ones. So we have an infinite amount of points stretching out in two opposite directions. That is a line. Okay, to name a line, you pick any 2 points on the line. So we have A and B on this line, and then we put the line symbol over top. All right, you could have picked D and C. If we had D and C on that line, we could have picked those 2 points. Right, these represent this line here. It's the same line. You're just picking any 2 points on that line and putting the arrow over it. Okay, and then the other way here is sometimes there's a lowercase letter. So maybe if you had an M over here, we could then call it line M. Right, so in this one there was an L right here, so they called it line L. Right, that's because of that L right there. The little lowercase L is not a point on the line; it's the line itself. It's just telling you, giving you a letter to represent the line. Here we could call this line M. Right, or you can pick 2 points that are on the line and put the line over it. Either one of those would work for naming this line. Okay, a plane, right, is going to be a 2-dimensional surface. So the point was 0 dimensions. It had no length, no width, no height. The line was 1-dimensional, so it would have like a length, and that's it. It's going right and left or up and down or in 2 opposite directions, but that accounts for 1 dimension. Just like the x-axis, right, would be 1 dimension. The plane is going to be 2 dimensions. You have an x-axis and a y-axis on your coordinate plane. So that gives it 2 dimensions. So any flat surface and it's going to extend out forever in all directions. Okay, to name a plane, you got, again, just like the line, you had this little L here. This is going to have this little M in the corner, a little capital letter in the corner. So we can call it plane M. Okay, the other way to do it is you pick any 3 points in the plane and you simply put them next to each other. So if we have a plane like this, and I don't know, we have A, B, C, and D, then maybe you have an N over here, right? There's no dot associated with this N, so it's not a point on the plane, it's simply a name for the plane. So we can call this plane N. Okay, or you pick any 3 non-collinear points, any 3 points that aren't on the same line. So we could also name this plane, and then just any of the 3 points, so A, B, C. As long as they're not all on the same line, we would be good there. Okay, so those are your 3 undefined terms: points, lines, planes.